They say a cemetery is a library of silenced stories. Every headstone is a cover, every plot a final chapter. Usually the stories are written in stone, fixed, frozen, and finished. But I found a grave that was still being written. I was in the Blackwood Cemetery, an old, overgrown plot on the edge of town. It's the kind of place where the trees seem to lean in to hear what the dead are saying. I was there for my hobby, digital archiving. I photograph old headstones and upload them to genealogy sites. I was about to leave when I saw it. A headstone from 1926, Elias Thorne. The stone was crumbling, covered in a century of moss and gray lichen, but right in the center, perfectly preserved, was a modern laser-etched QR code. It didn't belong. It was like seeing a neon sign on a medieval castle. It was too sharp, too clean, too digital. I laughed at first. I thought even the dead are getting a tech upgrade. I pulled out my phone. I expected a link to a Find a Grave page or maybe a video of a funeral from 100 years ago. I hovered my camera over the code. My phone didn't just vibrate, it kicked, a sharp haptic jolt that made my fingers tingle. The link was a string of random characters, no .com, no HTTPS, just a black void of text. I clicked. The connection. The screen didn't load a website, it opened the camera app, but it wasn't my camera, it was a live feed from somewhere else. The image was low latency, grainy and tinted in a sickly, bruised purple. It was looking up. I could see the undersides of roots. I could see the compressed layers of soil and rock. And then I saw the timestamp in the corner. Live, 0.00 FPS. Depth, minus 21,120 feet. 4 miles down. I looked at the headstone in front of me, then back at the screen. My GPS coordinates were flickering at the bottom of the feed. They matched my location exactly. I was standing on top of a camera that was buried 4 miles deep. Then the audio kicked in. It wasn't white noise. It was vocalizations, thousands of them. It was a collective subterranean hum of 1,000,000 voices speaking at once, but with no words, just a low, vibrating groan of existence. I tried to close the app. My thumb swiped the screen, but the interface wouldn't budge. The phone felt warm. Not the normal warmth of a working processor. It felt like it was sitting on a stovetop. I noticed a chat box at the bottom of the live feed. It was scrolling so fast it looked like a waterfall of digital static. I hit screen record, and when I slowed the footage down later, I realized it wasn't noise. It was a rhythmic pulse of symbols, names, dates, and fragments of a language that hasn't been spoken in centuries. And then, amidst the chaos of the code, a single word crystallized on the screen, flickering in a sickly neon green. E-L-I-A-S. The name on the grave was literally being typed out by the void itself. The thermal shift. I have a thermal imaging attachment for my phone. I use it to find heat leaks in old buildings. Out of instinct, I toggled it on. The world turned blue. The trees were cold. The other headstones were cold blocks of purple. But Elias Thorne's grave, it was white. In thermal imaging, white means extreme heat. The base of the headstone was glowing so bright it blurred my sensor. I looked down at the grass around the grave. It was autumn. There was a thin layer of frost on every other plot, but in a perfect circle around Elias Thorne, the grass was steaming. The frost had vanished. The soil was turning to mud, bubbling softly as if it were being cooked from below. I looked back at the live feed. The image was changing. The purple grain was clearing up. The camera down there was moving. It was panning across a landscape that shouldn't exist. It wasn't just dirt. It was a vast hollow cathedral of obsidian and glowing magma. I saw structures, not houses, but pillars of bone-white stone stretching into a dark, smokeless sky. And then I saw the shadows. On my phone screen, I saw a shadow move across the obsidian floor. It was tall, too tall. Its limbs were thin, like spider silk, and it moved with a jerky, frame-skipping motion. I looked up at the cemetery. The sun was setting. The shadows of the trees were long. One of the shadows wasn't a tree. It was standing right next to me. In the physical world, there was nothing but air, but on my thermal screen, a white-hot shadow was standing inches from my shoulder. I couldn't breathe. The air around the grave had become sulfurous and heavy. I felt the oxygen leaving my lungs. I looked at the chat box again. The binary had stopped. Now it was just one word repeated over and over. Transfer, transfer, transfer. My phone began to vibrate so violently I had to grip it with both hands. The screen was warping. The liquid crystal was bleeding into the shape of a face. The audio shifted. The whispering stopped. It was replaced by a rhythmic, heavy pounding. Thump, thump, thump. It wasn't coming from the phone's speakers. It was coming from under my boots. Something was hitting the underside of the Earth's crust. Something 4 miles down was trying to break through the surface, and it was using the QR code as a digital anchor. I saw the mud around the headstone begin to sink. The grave wasn't just hot, it was becoming a vacuum. The soil was being sucked into a hole that didn't have a bottom. I tried to run, but my feet felt heavy, like I was standing in wet cement. I looked at the thermal screen one last time. The white-hot shadow wasn't next to me anymore. It was behind the screen. I saw a handprint appear on the inside of my phone glass, a handprint made of heat. It was faint for a small time, then it grew, pressing against the pixels until they turned white. The glass started to crack in a spiderweb pattern following the lines of the palm. "It's not a link," I whispered to the empty cemetery. "It's a handoff." The extraction. I threw the phone. It hit the mud and stayed there, glowing like a dying coal. The QR code on the headstone began to pulse with a dull, rhythmic red light. Every time it pulsed, the cemetery grew darker, as if the grave was drinking the light out of the sky. I turned and ran. I didn't look back until I reached the iron gates of the cemetery. When I looked, the plot was gone. There was just a patch of scorched black earth where Elias Thorne had rested for a century. I got home. I tried to log in to my cloud storage to delete the recording, but I couldn't. My account was locked. I received an email 10 minutes ago. No subject, no sender. It was a photo. It was a photo of me standing at the gate of the cemetery, looking back. But the photo wasn't taken from the road. It was taken from inside the hole. I looked closer at the image. In the background, behind my own terrified face, I could see the infinite grid of blue light. I could see the obsidian pillars, and I could see the QR code. It's on my skin now, a small black square on the back of my hand. It's faint, like a bruise, but it's getting darker every hour. I can feel my temperature rising. I feel like I'm sitting on a stovetop. I'm writing this because I know how you're watching this. You're on a phone, you're on a laptop, you're connected to the same grid I was. Check your recently deleted folder, check your shared albums, because the unborn and the undead don't need a physical shovel to dig their way out anymore. They just need a connection. If you see a QR code where it doesn't belong, if you see a link that looks like a void, don't scan it. Because once the feed starts, you're not the one watching the video. The video is watching you.